Hello and welcome to the day ahead. It's Tuesday, June the 9th. I'm Andrew Gagan. Well, the local market is set to open higher to begin the shortened week, with ASX futures up around 0.25%, having earlier been in the red following a global sell-off in equities. Stocks on Wall Street suffered a steep sell-off last Friday, led by losses among the tech stocks, with $1 trillion wiped off the value of the chipmakers, while much stronger than expected jobs data added to the rout on the prospect of higher interest rates. However, on Monday, US stocks ended mostly higher, led by gains on the Nasdaq and chipmakers as investors sought bargains, while the Dow ended lower. Market sentiment was also buoyed after Iran and Israel said they'd halted attacks on each other. Intel shares jumped higher and reports that Alphabet's Google had placed an order to manufacture more than 3 million tensor processing units in 2028. Nvidia and Micron, along with Tesla, rose, while Broadcom, which reignited fears around the AI after a weaker than expected quarterly revenue print last week, gained, having fallen some 11% on Friday. Marvell Technology, which shed nearly 17% on Friday, bounced back as the chipmaker is set to join the S&P 500 on June 22nd. Apple announced a Siri revamp at its annual Worldwide Developers Conference. Eli Lilly gained after the drug maker's trial results showed its next-generation obesity drug, retatrutide, curbs sleep apnea severity, in addition to boosting weight loss and helping knee pain. And ChatGPT maker OpenAI filed for a US IPO, joining rival Anthropic in a push towards the stock market as investors seek exposure to the AI boom. This comes ahead of SpaceX's IPO on Friday. Well, Iran and Israel say they've halted attacks on each other after an appeal from President Trump that they immediately stop shooting. However, Iran said it would resume strikes if Israel continued to strike Hezbollah in Lebanon. The Iranian Foreign Ministry says the regime is exchanging messages with the Trump administration in an atmosphere of what it calls extreme suspicion, and says Israel's action in Lebanon were aimed at sabotaging diplomacy. Well, US inflation expectations a year from now are expected to be at 3.5%, according to the New York Federal Reserve survey. And on Friday, US non-farm payrolls data saw jobs surge 172,000 in May, close to double consensus estimates, while the unemployment rate held steady at 4.3%. US Treasury yields rose to a 15-month high on Friday after the stronger than expected jobs report bolstered bets that the Fed will raise interest rates later this year. However, they were mixed on Monday, with the 2-year falling to 4.16%, the 10-year rose to 4.55%. Australian 3-year government bond yields fell to 4.61%, the 10-year is down to 4.97%. The US dollar index was down around 0.5% on the session. The Aussie is around 70.4 US cents to be well off its highs. Oil prices are higher after rising more than 5% earlier in the session, as Iran and Israel said they had halted attacks on each other following an appeal from President Trump. Brent crude futures at around $94 a barrel. Gold steadied as prospects for a potential Israel-Iran ceasefire helped the metal rebound from session lows. Spot gold at around $4,430 an ounce. Copper futures rose more than 0.5%. Iron ore down 1% to 102 US a tonne. And Bitcoin is currently trading just over 63,000 US dollars. Ahead locally today, we get Westpac's June Consumer Confidence Index and NAB's May Business Conditions and Confidence Report. That is your day ahead. See you again tomorrow.